Welcome to Biocide Safety Training. A biocide is a pesticide that is designed to kill microorganisms. As humans, we are a macroorganism, so if we get biocides on our tissue, it's going to have some of the same characteristics that it would have on these single-cell organisms. This course will include a regulatory review, biocide safety that addresses chemical properties, health effects, and first aid, as well as some additional safety points. A biocide is a pesticide that's registered with the EPA. A biocide label has specific instructions on it. The label tells you exactly the minimum and maximum dosages we can feed, depending on whether we are slug feeding or continuously feeding the product. It will also tell you what applications it is approved for. As a result, the label will be very helpful. All of the biocides we sell, with the exception of WaterTech 5213M, are sold under the manufacturer's label. We currently use Dow, Lonza, and BWA products. Biocides are designed to kill microorganisms. These are single-cell organisms that do not have complex chemistry or immune systems. The biocides can work in a variety of ways. Some puncture a hole in the cell wall and poison it that way. Some surround the cell and cut off its food supply. It just depends on the type of product. But typically, if you contact the cell, it's going to kill the whole organism because they are a relatively simple-celled organism. Sometimes we will send in a sample and have them run a test to determine what is in the water from a microbiological standpoint. This is because some biocides work better on algae, and others work better on sulfate-reducing bacteria. Depending on what specific organism we're trying to target, it will help us to choose the right biocide. That being said, most of the biocides WaterTech sells are broad spectrum. That means they are going to act on a variety of different microorganisms. Using many different tests like SRBs and IRBs help validate that the system is under control. One of the health concerns associated with biocides is respiratory exposure. Glutaraldehyde, which is Aquacar GA15 and Aquacar GA45, can give off fumes. Proper ventilation is important. Otherwise, most of our biocides don't really have any major respiratory issues associated with them. Biocide contact with your eyes should be avoided. Some biocides like glutaraldehyde, DBNPA, and isothiazolin are sensitizers. Most of us don't have any issues with these biocides, but some of us do. If you are sensitive to these materials, the first contact might lead to a small reaction. However, with each subsequent time you come in contact, that reaction will get worse and worse. The key to avoidance is wearing your PPE. Some biocides are inhalation hazards, such as gaseous chlorine. We don't really sell much gaseous chlorine. Remember to consider the vapor density when working with a product. If a gas has a vapor density that is greater than 1, it is going to be at the floor. If it's less than 1, the gas will be up at the ceiling. Anhydrous ammonia has a lower vapor pressure. If you're in a room where there's an ammonia release, you want to be on your hands and knees, crawling along the floor to get out of the space. Always be aware of what these vapor pressures and densities mean as far as an evacuation would go. If you're around a bleach concentration of 0.5 ppm in the air for more than 8 hours, you have exceeded the OSHA threshold weighted average. Short-term concentrations should not exceed 1 ppm in the air. To minimize exposure, wear all of your PPE when you're dealing with biocides or with any chemistries. It is important to be on heightened alert when you're dealing with these products in your day-to-day job. Some additional safety points. Store biocides in a cool, dry area. Always label containers. Always wear your PPE. Do not wear leather gloves. Each time the dried chemical on your gloves becomes moist, it can reactivate. This also goes with leather shoes, but ideally just avoid leather gloves. If you get chemicals on your clothes, I would toss it out, or at least not wash it with any other items. That's why we give you PPE, so you hopefully do not have to worry about getting it on your clothes. And a few points about labels. The only time you can have a container without a label on it is if you never set it down out of your sight. If you go stop to use the men's room, and you set it on a table, it's got to have a label. If you put it in a container, and you physically go dump it, it doesn't. The same thing with day tanks. You've got 3 chemicals that you're mixing in a day tank. Whatever chemistry you put in that tank, you must have the label on that tank. Glutaraldehyde, DBNPA, and isothiazolin are sensitizers. This includes our Aquacar and Kathon chemistries. Try not to get any of our chemistries on you, but specifically sensitizers. If you do get them on you, don't panic. Get yourself to some water, wash yourself, or get rinsed for 15 minutes. What should you do if there is a biocide leak? Do not discharge to a sewer without approval. Due to their biocidal nature, biocides can kill the bugs at the local municipal treatment plant, causing their secondary treatment to fail. Don't store biocides next to a drain.